And welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. And joining us right now is the president of the Americans for Tax Reform, the one and only Grover Norquist. Hey, Grover.
Absolutely. Good to be with you.
Good to talk to you again. Okay, so before we get to the debacle that, I don't know, keeps on failing or keeps on giving, however you want to look at it, Paul Ryan made some remarks today, the House Budget Committee chairman. Said that, actually yesterday, the country doesn't need to worry about another government shutdown. He said that there will be no budget cuts and, there's not going to be any pushback from the Republicans and they're going to keep levels of where they are. And, I mean, is this something you go along with?
Well, listen carefully to what he just said. Here's what happens if nothing happens, okay? That is that government spending falls to next year's lower sequestration numbers. The sequester is a cap on spending for 1 decade, for 10 years. The Democrats have wanted ever since, I started to say Clinton, ever since Obama thought up the sequester, he believed that we would balk at the spending restraint in the Pentagon and would come back and say, please, please raise taxes so we can spend more money on everything, including the Pentagon. That is exactly what did not happen. So the president has spent the last 2 years trying to undo what he thought was a dirty trick on Republicans. I will agree to phony spending cuts, but the Republicans will come and give me tax increases, and the phony spending cuts will disappear. Spending cuts aren't phony. They're real. They're happening. And so what is being put forward by Paul Ryan is, you know what, we'll just live with the spending caps. We're happy. If you want to come and talk to us about some trade or deal, you do that. So sounding as nice as he could be, he just put a shiv up their ribs.
Okay, so
I'm with him. I think he said it very nicely.
Yeah, so there's a method to his madness, in other words, and he's saying it in a non-confrontational way, a non-gloating way, if you will. Now we have to wait and see if the Democrats go along with that or they demand something.
They're going to. I think that they've been demanding. They want higher taxes. They want more spending. They want an end to the sequester. But they're in an odd position because when you have two evenly matched teams, House can say no to anything that the Senate wants. Senate can say no to anything the House wants. The person who needs something loses that argument. They need something. The Democrats and the president need something. They need more spending. We don't.
And Grover, that brings us back to health care in a way, because I guess the accepted line of thinking is that the Democrats are looking for a new boogeyman, if you will. They need an enemy. They need someone or something to blame and to say, oh, look, the evil Republicans, and get the focus off of the Affordable Care Act. So they're going to cause a confrontation, and of course, knowing full well the media, like the first time, even though you had a president who said no to negotiations, who refused to fund kids with cancer in the National Institute of Health, etc.
Yes.
So they're gonna force a confrontation with the Republicans and count on the media to champion their cause. Do you see that happening?
I think that they'll try that. I think they will fail at it. They planned to do that once they thought that they'd done okay out of the shutdown. They'd go back and say to us, you saw how much it hurt you when you had the shutdown, cost you your governorship in Virginia. If you don't give us what we want, there'll be a second shutdown, and you will really be bleeding from all pores. I don't think the president can do that because he has governed so poorly. His numbers are so bad, his approval numbers, the approval of his health care legislation is so poor in terms of levels of support that he can't demand Bush or bully, and the Republicans, who are a little bit burned about the government shutdown, as it is. And again, we're not asking for anything. We're just asking for the settled law of the land to be observed. That's the sequester. Now, the president's going to need some relief because his health care bill is so poorly written that it keeps having problems. It's going to raise costs for most people, very damaging to young people, very damaging to college students. 5 million people or so have lost or are losing their health care. Tens of thousands are getting government-approved health care. It's an awful lot of people stuck between the two shores with no paddle. The president wants this fixed on his terms. He wants the government to get bigger, more powerful, to expand Medicaid and his programs. For that, the Republicans will say no. They're going to say, let's fix the problem the American people have. We're not trying to save your program. We're trying to save the American people. And that's the fight between Obama, who wants to change the law to save his system and the bureaucracy, and the Republicans want to change the law to save the American people's health care.
We're talking to Grover Norquist here on the Steve Malzberg Show. So the Republicans, I would assume you would agree, are in a pretty good position going into 2014.
They are. Not only are the House seats looking good because of redistricting and strong candidates, Republicans should pick up seats that allow you saw 39 very frightened Democratic congressmen vote with the Republicans, slap in the face to Obama. Obama said, I'll do this all by executive order. They said, we want the world to see we are not with you on this one. 39 people, Democrats, voted that way. And now you look in the Senate, and there are 7 Democrats stuck in running for office for the Senate in very Republican states, likely to lose those 7 seats. And then there are other seats in addition to that, Michigan, Iowa, New Hampshire, where there's a good shot a Republican could take a Democratic seat now. The only seat you worry about is Georgia if we don't nominate the strongest candidate, because Democrats are putting forward serious candidates and serious money. But otherwise, there are no seriously challenged Republicans around the country. So the Republicans will hold the House and have a very high likelihood of winning the Senate in 2014.
All right, let's talk about the strategy on health care. You know, I keep asking people, when are the Republicans going to pass something in the House? Of course, they can't do it in the Senate. Just pass something. What I say, and I think I'm out of touch, but I keep saying, just pick the 5 things that the Democrats always tout. Paul Begala comes on, and every time he's on CNN, he talks about, my father doesn't have the donut hole, and my kids, they're on my policy until they're 26, and and I had a pre-existing condition, and it doesn't matter anymore. So he always relates it to his whole family, how the 5 key aspects that they keep talking about. So I said why don't they just pass a one-pager with those 5 or 6 things and say, okay, we're going to keep the things that people like, but the other 1,800 pages are going away. Tom DeLay told me yesterday that they shouldn't pass anything because any federal intrusion into the insurance of health care is unconstitutional. Where do you fall?
Okay. If we were starting from scratch, would you want any federal regulation of insurance? No. But for the last 50 years, we've had 50 state insurance commissions that regulate the heck out of it and don't allow you to buy insurance across state lines. That's not how we deal with life insurance. It's not how we deal with car insurance. Why in the world do we do it with health insurance? So the government's been messing this up for a long time, state and federal, and it's going to take both state and federal undoing the present mess to get this turned around. So I'm not sure that informs us how to get from here to there. We did see just a couple days ago the Republicans vote, with 39 Democrats voting with them, on the Upton bill to say this is the legislation that says that the Obama promised that if you liked your health insurance, you could keep it. Then he passed regulations which ordered a lot of insurance companies to cancel your health insurance. Why? Because it's illegal in this country to sell health insurance that doesn't do X, Y, and Z. Even if you don't want to buy X, Y, and Z, they put a mandate in. This is what was wrong for so many years at the state level. The particularly corrupt states had many mandates. New Jersey requires like 48 different things that you have to buy as part of your insurance, like hair transplants, even if you don't want that, or drug stuff, even if you don't want it. Drug rehabilitation, you've got to pay for it for other people. So we need to move on Upton's legislation, which is passed now in the House, need to vote in the Senate, which simply says, reminding everyone the president fibbed, told you something that was not true when he said you could keep your insurance. And we now know from the internal documents and comments from the people who were there, all the Democrats knew it wasn't true. And Obama's and his campaign people sat around and said, this is a very helpful lie. It polls very well. Should we keep using it knowing it's a lie? And they said yes. The political people beat out the policy people and said yes, keep saying it even though it's not true. And Democrat congressmen and senators knew it wasn't true, and they were out there saying it, dozens of them. So this is, I think you're right. The Republicans should rifle shot pass through the House as many reforms. It doesn't have to be, quote-unquote, comprehensive, solving all the world's problems in one bill. That's how we got into this mess, trying to, guess what? They did a messy job of it. So let's go in and fix these things one at a time. Why not legalize? This is one of the things I think the Republicans may well do in the next few weeks. Just pass a law that says you can buy insurance from any state you want.
Absolutely.
Not just your own state.
That's the most important. That and malpractice, tort reform, the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Put all the trialers in a plastic bag and float them down the river.
One more. Boehner, of course, said no immigration, comprehensive immigration reform. They'll never even look at the Senate bill. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it piecemeal. How much do you think they will do, in not this year, but probably next year by now, piecemeal?
Sure. I think this is a very helpful statement by Boehner because some Republicans feared that if they pass two or three good, as we're talking about on health care, rifle-shot pieces of legislation that do this, this, and this, that somehow the Senate would be able to reach over and grab it, conference with it, and make the Republicans in the House eat it. That was not a real rational fear, but it was something that people worried about. I mean, it's never going to happen. And what Boehner said was, let me make this very clear for the 17th time. That is not going to happen. So what are we going to do? He's got 5 bills that Goodlatte has put together through his Judiciary Committee. They actually wrote them down seriously as opposed to the Senate bill, which was thrown together, pieces of it, in the last 2 hours of the whole thing, particularly the bits on border security, in order to have something that everybody in the Senate could pretend to agree to.
Right.
What we do have now is a very good, much improved bill that McCaw of Texas put together on border security. Great improvement over what we have today. And it doesn't cost $1 jillion, okay? They're not going to put 50,000 people on the border. They're doing a lot of high-tech stuff.
No, Grover, I have to stop because we're running up against a hard break, but that's a great place to start. And hopefully if they do pass it, because they've passed that before, something will actually get done, like that wall that never got built. But anyway, pleasure to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much.
You got it. Take care.
Take care. Grover Norquist, ladies and gentlemen, president of Americans for Tax Reform. When we come back, the history of football, how football was almost outlawed, and what saved the game of football. It's something very basic, something we take for granted now, but did not exist decades ago in the game of football when it was this close to getting knocked out of the whole sports arena. Steve